What's the red flags that you need to find a new job? When I first started at my old job 3 years ago, I noticed a lot of people leaving, which I thought was weird because I was so happy there. A few months and I started keeping a spreadsheet of current staff and staff who had resigned, because I thought it was pretty funny, and also because some of them lasted such a short amount of time I'd completely forgotten they'd even worked there. A week after I handed my resignation letter, the spreadsheet fell into the hands of HR, and they kicked up a big stink about it, because it was a violation of privacy. It was just a list of first and last names, no identifying details, no reason they left or new company, no contact details, and incorrect, which is false. My record keeping was immaculate. HR kept asking me over and over again why I made the spreadsheet. I don't know if they thought I was going to use it to contact former staff members, maybe start a class action against them for all the hell they put their employees through. I told them the truth about why I made the spreadsheet. I said at first it was funny how many people were resigning. Now it's just sad. The company had a max of 160 employees at any given time, and over the 3 years I worked there, about 220 people had come and gone. That's a bit more than one person per week on average for 3 years. Currently going through this, we got a new regional CEO last year who's an incompetent, money-wasting, narcissistic hack. Luckily my department mostly flies under the radar since we're already considered the lowest rung of the totem pole. Just trying to ride it out until she either gives up or runs our region so far into the ground the National Board of Executives finally takes notice. We're skimming close to a 50% turnover rate by this point, which is really bad for a non-profit that needs to keep its connections with people. This is a big one that a lot of people ignore. If you can't have a week off without spending it worrying about what is going on in your absence, then the job sucks, or you're the owner, in which case that's very much your responsibility to find people you can trust to run the place while you're away. I used to have a job where if you took a week off you'd spend the next 2-3 weeks trying to fix the mess that you came back to. That is the result of a shit management structure and shit organization. Employees should be able to take their time off without regretting it when they come back. If your employer has a "yeah, you can take your time off, but you'll be making that time up when you return" sort of set up, then you should get the fuck out of there. The group of people I go out with all work together. All they ever talk about is how much their jobs at the company suck, or how so-and-so did this or that. All it ever is complaining about the company. When I mention how much they complain and should honestly look for a better, higher-paying job, they all reply with, "Though I've been here for over a decade, I can't leave." The fuck you can't. Exactly this. My job has a very strict attendance policy that includes sick time. You get 3 occurrences a year, which includes everything from family emergencies, bereavement, to sick time. Anything over the 3 occurrences and it's a write-up. My breaking point was being harassed about a doctor's note to include the first day that I was too sick to get out of bed, let alone see a doctor. When I called the nurse to have them adjust the note, I ended up bawling my eyes out because the nurse apologized to me for having to deal with management like that. Fuck sick shaming. I'm not a robot, I'm a human being. I get migraines. At my old job, I would submit my time off request early in the morning when I woke up with one, but the rest of the day would be texts from my boss saying, 6:50 a.m. "Sorry you aren't feeling well. Let me know if you're able to make it in." 8:14 a.m. "How are you feeling? Do you think you'll make it in today?" 9:22 a.m. "The phones are just so busy this morning. Let me know if you're coming in soon." 11:30 a.m. "Just making sure you're feeling okay. Migraines are the worst. Do you think you'll be in later?" 2:12 p.m. "Checking in with you. Do you think you'll be in today?" 5:02 p.m. "Are you coming in tomorrow?" Student here. I worked a job so terrible, I would cry on Friday, cause that meant I worked 2 8 and 1/2 hour shifts back to back. losing my weekend and hockey time. I was the only kid excited for Monday to go back to school. Took me a while to realize that crying because you have to go to work and worrying about it all week was terrible. Mental health got so bad I had the police called to my door. I quit that weekend. I work for a university, and when the pandemic hit, they implemented a job freeze. Managers have to make a case for why they need someone. My previous department is chronically short-staffed and has been holding an employee hostage because she got another position within the university. Her position has been posted twice and no one has applied for it. It's been 3 months. I was glad to escape, but my current department is down by half. I haven't been there long and it's been so stressful because the workload is insane and the learning curve is steep. I'm prone to depression and can feel myself sinking. I've been looking at jobs outside of the university, but I'm too mentally exhausted to apply. This is only true if your company isn't growing. If the company actually needs more people like you, that means you have even more job security and a more realistic pathway to management. We just leave the same job listings up and constantly take applicants, because we can't hire fast enough to keep up with demand. Once we find enough people that I can't manage directly anymore, we'll start turning more people into managers. A friend of mine was an administrative assistant and her boss would email her the pay stubs and she would print them out and put them in the envelopes for her boss to distribute the next day. She printed out her own pay stub and it said in the memo last paycheck, and she texted me a picture of it and she asked me what it meant, and I told her pack your shit, stay calm, keep your dignity. I used to drive to work with the not-so-suppressed feeling that I wouldn't mind being involved in an accident that resulted in my hospitalization, perhaps a couple of broken legs and a long but achievable recovery, because then I'd get a few weeks or months off. At the same job I had a colleague who said he didn't bother looking when he crossed the road because it didn't matter to him. Somehow I didn't pick up on it at the time, but that place was not good for anyone working there. A different take on the same thing, my old roommate talked all the time about hating his job, but mostly jokingly, but it was good money and he figured that's just how work life is. One day he fell down the stairs at the train station on his way to work and ended up with a pretty brutal concussion and broke his wrist, and his literal very first thought was, at least I don't have to go to work, and that's when he realized it wasn't normal to hate your job that much. I used to drive to work with the not-so-suppressed feeling that I wouldn't mind being involved in an accident that resulted in my hospitalization, perhaps a couple of broken legs and a long but achievable recovery, because then I'd get a few weeks or months off. This could never goes away for me. I just fucking hate laboring. The work culture and practices in North America are draconian and disgusting. Most of us spend 2/3 RDS of our waking hours commuting to and then laboring at our jobs, 5+ days a week, 49+ weeks a year, for 40+ years. And for what? In this day and age I can't even afford to own the roof over my head, even though I have a good job. It's absolutely insane how much time we spend laboring for scraps, and most people just seem to accept it blindly. My last job was like this. It was a pretty physical job, so I figured if I had any kind of injury to my feet, legs, I'd be good to go. Got horrible tendinitis in my foot. I was thrilled. Got the big boot and everything. My boss made me come in anyway, because I could still walk. Found a way to shift my responsibilities so that I could do everything but a few things that wouldn't be possible with a boot. I'm so glad I left that place. Yeah, I've been finding myself full of rage a lot lately, and I know it's because of my job. I'm extremely sick of dealing with increasingly mean customers and their demanding bullshit, and we're currently doing a merger which is requiring us to do a lot of stuff kinda on the fly that they didn't train us in super well. I'm slightly desperate to get out, but there are very few living wage jobs available where I am, especially since I'm trying to go to grad school so I can qualify for the kind of job I actually want to do. That doesn't always mean that your job sucks and you need to find a new one. I've been in this company for 8 years. But I got into software development just as COVID hit and we were sent home to work remotely. I had a huge mental breakdown and lost a ton of weight because I always felt underprepared and as if my job was on the line when in reality everyone was expecting for me to learn and take my time, and I even got told plenty of times to chill and that my job wasn't at risk. It took me months of therapy to realize it was all me and my own insecurities. Today I'm doing and feeling great. I'm the technical leader of that same team and now I'm the one who tells junior devs to chill, take their time and reach out if they need help or some time off. If your boss doesn't support you, if they are quick to anger and or always assume the worst, you constantly feel like you have to defend yourself, and nothing you do is good enough. You probably are good enough, they just don't like you. And it doesn't matter how hard you try. The more you work, the more you achieve, the more you are determined to change their mind, the more you are positive and resilient, the more it will just piss them off. You're likely smarter and more talented and they feel threatened by you. I just left a job like this. Everyone in the company hated the boss and he always felt he knew more about our roles than we did. He didn't, though. This led us to really not put in extra effort because when we did we were told to stay in our lane, but if we didn't put in extra effort then we were constantly asked what we did all day and even had to track our time and how long projects took. Dude was crazy and a shitty manager/leader/business owner. I rage quit. Everyone else I worked with was actively seeking new work. I was lucky that I had something to fall back on. This exactly happened to my last job. The boss hated me and would spend at least half his time writing me up for minor infractions and watching me like a hawk waiting for a slip-up to turn into a huge deal, and yelled at me all the time. I really think it's because he felt threatened by me and felt like I was making him look bad by being better at the job than he was. Exactly this. As soon as you realize your boss doesn't like you for any reason, could be your nationality, your style, or usually your higher than expected skills, and that you're not part of his agenda, you should run away. I've been there, and had to suck it up for over 2 years. My previous boss got fired and someone even worse replaced him, and brought over a couple of his friends. I couldn't quit because I had no green card at the time. Work becomes hell when your boss constantly tries to make you look bad, dismissing all your achievements and underpaying you in order to support and promote his incompetent friends, who are having a good time, working half of what you work while getting paid 30% more and with real chances of getting promoted. Fuck that. I'm so blessed that I found another job. Yeah, I had exactly this experience. I stayed to finish a project I cared a lot about, but I'm not sure the mental abuse was worth it. Constantly working with someone whose agenda is to make you not feel good enough is going to undermine your confidence, even if it's basically rock solid going in and you know it's their problem. I think it took me at least 6 months to recover and I still feel super angry about the situation sometimes. The good news is that you being successful elsewhere is going to piss them off too, so success really is the best revenge. I started a job 6 months ago. I wasn't treated with respect. One of my 2 coworkers was just an asshole. Like a serious douche, and I hated him from the very start. They both also worked there 20 years and hated it there and were looking for jobs regularly. They didn't make me feel like part of the team. They constantly complained about people there. The main boss above us just completely ignored me when I said hello to him one day. Like looked me dead in the eyes then looked away. So I left last week as spring started and the workload would triple. Fuck those depressing sobs. I am not going to let them drag me down. I worked for a government department and took a temporary promotion in a line of business I was very good at. I took on a team of new staff, trained them and got them over 3 months to competency. I didn't receive a jot of training or support for doing so. To fill my role permanently, my department recruited from a short list that had been in existence for 6 months. I couldn't apply. My performance wasn't considered. I was to be demoted back down against everyone's wishes. They brought in someone with no relevant knowledge in the line of work or management experience. I trained him up and promptly left. Reminds me of a job I had when I was 18. Super scummy call center. Was selling shitty electronic cigarettes before they had been popularized. Company was making a shit ton of money off of us, advertised on coast to coast, so we had hundreds of calls in queue at any given minute, but somehow had trouble making payroll on time. I don't know the exact details, but some of the managers found out the owner was majorly embezzling from the company. It was discovered when we found out, when our health insurance we were paying for wasn't actually being paid for, and, 2, our next paychecks weren't being paid out, and were going to be put onto your next check. One of the managers said fuck this, took the manager PC, and left. Cue everyone else doing the same thing. Over 100 computers went missing, and the company permanently closed that weekend. Depends on the context. I worked in a gardening center and the boss was often going around and giving us ice cream sandwiches and Mr. Freezes during hot summer days. It was just to cheer us up during the hot weather. In an office environment though, yeah, it is suspicious. Pizza or similar things can be also you will do forced overtime tonight. So this is your meal for tonight and we will tell you about it while you are eating. If the company you work for is sold, it's time to immediately start looking for another job. You might be retained until the new owner gets accustomed to how things work, but your position will be eliminated or filled by someone new in the not-too-distant future. Never trust any statements that claim that the new owner intends to keep the existing staff. If a new owner thinks you're important enough to keep, you will be offered something in writing prior to the sale. I worked for a bistro that got a new head manager. I'm not here to fat shame, but after leaving the bistro and coming back after a week's, every single waitress had been replaced, not just replaced, but replaced all by 200-plus-pound women. The bistro went from having a wide diverse cast of waitresses, to nothing but young, fat, white chicks with brown hair. Like where did this manager find so many girls of the same exact body type and hire them all? How do you replace an entire staff with nothing but 200-plus-pound white chicks? When you don't get paid to go to the bathroom. I worked for a call center years ago and there was an on-off button in the interface that actually also doubled as your minutes counted on the clock. There was already a traditional clock-in mechanism, but this turned out to be meaningless. I wondered why my paychecks were always all over the place even though I was never late and always left right on time, or usually a few minutes after. I took it up with accounting and asked what the deal was. Apparently the time was recorded by that on-off switch in the interface and your total time on for the day was recorded out of the 8 hours on your scheduled shift. However, if you worked 7 minutes or less in each 15-minute period, you would not be paid for the entire 15 minutes even if you worked for the other 8 minutes. This is actually state law and I'm sure most of you know this or have similar laws. The part that got to me is that the time off is not taken into context of the 15 minutes it occurs. It's subtracted from the daily total. So if you take a bathroom break in the morning totaling 4 minutes and another in the afternoon totaling 4 minutes, you are going to get 15 minutes docked from your paycheck. This doesn't only include bathroom time, but you would also be turning off to talk to your supervisor to go over a call. I emailed the VP of accounting to ask about this 1 year and never received a response. I was their top employee so I'm not sure anyone wanted to touch the topic. I left several years ago and now have the best job I've ever had, making 3 times as much than what I made at the call center. I basically had to deprogram my mind from all of the usual anxiety traps because my boss trusts me. It's crazy that I never have to explain myself anymore and can just say I'm taking a day off or whatever it might be. Based on my experience, here's the red flags that made me leave one job where I have been for 10 years. When direction explain less and less their decisions or they can't explain any logic behind their decisions other than because I told it so or something like that. When senior employees start to leave, especially if they leave in a rumbling way or burning bridges behind. Also, if direction always depict the leaving senior employees as lazy or not devoted enough, Double red flag. When more and more people are not showing up or calling sick, and when people are less showing for social activities. When you feel you can't trust direction anymore, especially if you feel they are gaslighting you. When you feel positions or rewards are not given based on work, but more based on if you are in the right clique or not. If you wonder if there is corruption, just asking yourself if there is corruption is a giant red flag.